All right, everybody. Hopefully this isn't too loud. Let me do a quick mic check. Can you guys hear me okay? Cool, awesome. All right, thanks for coming. As usual, I like to do a little quick introductory slides. But first of all, hopefully you guys had a lot of pizza and drinks. And just want to give you a quick, I think there's some feedback going on here. Let's see. All right, cool. Is that better? Still hear me, right? OK, cool. So I just wanted to give a quick thank you guys for coming. And yeah, welcome to DEVx, hosted by Edge. A little bit about us for those of you that are new. We're a community of like-minded developers based here in San Diego. Our goal here is just to learn from each other, share, and grow and foster a really awesome developer community. Basically be welcoming of all kinds of skill levels. So if you're new to programming, we like to kind of bootstrap you. And if you're new, more of a senior, we like to give you an opportunity to help others and grow in that way as well. Quick shout out to our organizers who make this possible. AJ over here, DJing right now. Tristan in the back, no, in the front, there you are. Zane in the back, and then myself as well. Thank you guys for making this possible. Quick hand of applause for you guys. Appreciate it. And also thanks to Edge for hosting. For those of you who don't know what Edge is a software cryptocurrency wallet company. We build a self-custody app for basically a novice to the more experienced cryptocurrency users. We're a mobile wallet, so that means we're hosted or we're available on iOS and Android. And yeah, so check out that on the App Store. You can check us out on Android Marketplace. Full disclaimer, I'm one of the software engineers here, so if you guys have any crypto-related questions, I'm your guy to talk to about that. I love doing that. I do it on the daily, so we'd love to say thank you for Edge to making this possible and hosting this space. So quick applause to Edge. And quick other note, for the first time we have Paul here today in the crowd. He's actually the CEO of Edge, so just wanted to say thank you for coming, Paul, and look forward to keep doing this with you. So awesome. It's not your first rodeo, sure. A little bit about the facilities. Wi-Fi, if you guys haven't already connected, is Edge Guest, and the password is I like big bits. And then restrooms are out the door to the left, all the way in the back. There shouldn't be any door code, but if there is, feel free to ask me for that. And so that is that. A little bit about what we have going on coming up. Today we have our weekend function. This is this event here. We also are planning another one later this month. Quick turnaround there. It's actually 4 weeks apart, so it's not it's our typical schedule there. And then we have a new event that we will be planning as well. We haven't titled yet. We don't have a date for, but so that's why it's RFC, Request for Comments. But this is going to be a casual meetup event for based in somewhere in Del Mar. The concept is that you're going to be able to work together in a coffee shop and just kind of more of a casual hangout. And like learning like more hands-on things and bringing your own project and things like that. So stay tuned to these events coming up. Our Luma's on the bottom for following our calendar. It's lu.ma/devxsd. Also wanted to make a note to our last special event we had at Novo Brewery in Mission Valley called Last Call Stack. And I want to say thanks to all of those who could make it to that event. It was a smaller event. It was the first of this kind where we got together around a table with a big screen and started coding together on a project, kind of step by step. It was really great because we really worked through all the hurdles together. That project specifically was building and deploying your own meme coin, so that was a lot of fun. A meme coin is basically a cryptocurrency coin that doesn't really mean anything other than what you want it to mean. So that was a lot of fun, and there's a little picture of us. It was a great time. I wanted to poll on our community whether or not this is something we should be continuing to do and get a little bit of feedback here if we should do another one. So that was a lot of fun. So for today, what do we got in store for you? We already did the networking portion of our agenda. We had some lunch. And then now we're moving on to speaker presentations. We're running a little bit later than usual, but that's OK. So we have 3 speakers today. After our speaker presentations, we're going to do a little quick open mic, which means anyone can come up stage with a microphone and kind of announce why they're here, what they got going on, projects, anything that they want to announce to the community. We're going to give the mic up to them. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, we'll continue hanging out until 4 when we close. So for our speakers today, we're going to start our talks, the talks off with David. He's going to be talking about developing the MIDI protocol. So that's going to be first. After that, we're going to be talking, Coriano is going to be talking about CSS and how that can help you out with user interactions without you necessarily using JavaScript. A lot of things that we do, typically we use JavaScript for that. He'll be showing you how you don't necessarily need that with some of these cool new CSS things that are coming up the pipeline. As well, the final talk we'll be doing is going to be on Git Basic. Fabian's going to be presenting this. I'm sorry, Git Bisect, not Basic. Git Bisect. That one's an interesting tool I didn't even know about, and I'm typically known in the office as the Git guy. So that one's pretty cool. I did a little sneak peek on that, and so I'm really excited for all these talks. So with all that said, without further ado, let's welcome David to the stage.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Let's get you set up here. There we go. Let's see. There we go. Let me get. There we go.
Okay.
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 Get away.
Hi, I'm David. I'm glad to be here. I'm a software developer. I've been doing it for a long time. Mostly I program in C++, but I also develop apps on the Google Play Store. Well, I've developed 3 apps. Mostly those are Java because for what I'm trying to do, it just makes a little bit more sense. This app called USB MIDI Connect is an app that connects to external musical instruments and controls them through the MIDI protocol. So I wanted to go over the usage of MIDI protocol, but not using my app. I'm just going to go use an example of how you would generate a MIDI file from USB MIDI Connect and then modify it from a C++ program. But first, the MIDI protocol is MIDI MIDI. It's a musical instrument digital interface. It's a protocol that enables you to control musical instruments. And one thing about the MIDI protocol, a lot of it consists of messages, and the messages will have like a status byte and then a data byte. So you always see these 2 bytes. And you'll see that in the transfer between one device and another, but also like for generating MIDI files. But today I'm just going to show the use of a MIDI file and modifying a MIDI file. So I'll get started here from my app. I'm going to generate a MIDI file, and this checkbox says I want to have a melody to go with it, and you'll see that I've selected, well, by default, there's piano and piccolo. So it's acoustic grand piano and piccolo. That'll be on channel 1 and 2, but internally it's stored as 0 and 1. And I'm going to go ahead and generate my file in the music directory. Okay, should be generated. So I'm going to come over here and open a MIDI player, which I downloaded off the Play Store. And then I'm going to open a file, and then it says I haven't, and I get an advertisement. Sometimes you just have to be a little patient. Okay. I'm going to open file. So here's the file I just generated. So I'm going to play it for you, just a few bars of it. Oops. So you can hear the piano in the background and then the piccolo playing the melody. And also notice that the melody is I chose was rotational melody. It goes da 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 da. So, but what I was thinking when I created the app was how would I play music if I were sitting at a piano or a keyboard? And that's the way the app is designed. But I was thinking, what if I don't want a keyboard instrument? I want to do horns and trumpets. So that's a use case that the app doesn't support. So I'm going to try to modify this file to instead of using piano and piccolo, I want to use trumpets and a French horn. So I've got my MIDI file. Let me, okay, files. I think it's under here, music. There it is. Okay, I'm going to copy that and then go to my Linux development environment, go to my code directory, and then MIDI demo directory, and I'm going to paste it here where I have access to it. Then I'm going to open up my terminal where I can write some code.
Can you bump up the font size?
I'm not sure.
Control S.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Thanks. So I'm going to open up so I'm going to try to move quickly here. Some includes that I need and then I'm going to need some macros. First, I need oops. So macros for changing the instruments. In the MIDI protocol, you have what's called the program change message. Remember I was saying before about messages. So I'm going to make a macro for program change, but then I have to go look up from the MIDI protocol, and I have that. Oh, that's the general MIDI, not that one. The MIDI detailed specification. I'm going to look up program change. Well, actually, these are all right here. I can just use this. Okay. So program change, you'll see, is hexadecimal CN, where N is the channel number. So I'm going to say program change N is 0xC N. And then I also, so that's going to help me change the instruments that I'm using. And then, but I want to shift the melody around a little bit to make it more appropriate for a French horn. So I'm also going to need the note on message. that one is 0x9n, where n is the channel number again. Okay, so I've got those, and then for the program change, I'm going to switch over from the MIDI detailed specification and go to the general MIDI specification. The general MIDI specification was a specification that Roland Corporation introduced so that the various vendors could have keyboards and so on and so forth, and they have the same instruments on them, like piano, organ, and they all have the same numbers, so that you could say, I want to play piano, and on no matter which vendor you're using, it'll be able to play a piano, and so on. So I'm going to look up. I actually know already. I already know that grand piano is 0 because that's always the first one. But I have to look up piccolo, and it says 73, but I have to subtract 1 because there's 0 off 0 base. So 72, and then I need trumpet. Oops. Says 57, but I have to subtract 1 because it's 0 offset. So 56, and then I need French horn. Says 61, and I subtract 1 and I get 60. Okay, and then for the notes, we have to have a starting point, and on any keyboard, the starting point is always is middle C. So I'm going to look up middle C, and it says middle C is represented by 60. But these notes, if you remember the melody, which I'm trying to flip around, were high. They're an octave higher than middle C. So I'm going to add 12 to that, and so note C is 72, but I need 8 different notes, so I'm going to just copy this and reuse it. C sharp is 73, D is 74, D sharp, oops, 75, E 76, F 77, F sharp is 78, G is 79. Okay, so I got all my macros that I need, so I'm going to start writing the functions. I need a function to get the file size. That gets the beginning of the file, and I'm just going to, I'm just going to reuse these 2 lines of code. Now I'm going to go to the end of the file, do auto p2 equals, okay. And then make sure I close the file when I'm done. So P2 minus P1 should be the size of the file. So that's that. And then I need a function to get the file contents. And then char start buff. Then return the buffer. Okay. I'm going to get one more file manipulation function to write a file, to write the updated file. Okay, that should be that. And then I'm going to need a function to modify the data. So remember, there's messages have the status byte and then the data byte. I'm going to write a function that looks for a certain status and data and replaces the data. So okay, now I'm ready to make my main procedure. And then size. Then I have to go back up to get my function signature to get the file. So I'm going to bring it back down here. And then, oops, what happened? Get file contents. And then for the file name, I'm going to use the first argument that was passed in, argv sub 1. And then for the len, I just have my len variable. And then here I have to do some modification to the file. And then finally, I'm going to close the file, get my function signature to write the updated file. Write file. This time I'm going to use argv2 because that's going to be the second parameter that was passed in. And then buff, and then len. Okay, that should do that. Oops, okay. But then to modify it, I'm going to have to call replace chars, so I'm going to get the function signature for that one. So I'm going to replace with buff, len, C1. In this case, I want the program change for channel 0 because that's where the piano is. And then that's going to be grand, piano, but now I want it to be a trumpet. Now I'm going to do a program change on channel 1 because I want the piccolo to be a French horn. Okay, so now that I've changed the instruments, I want to change the notes of the melody. So I'm going to change note on, and then the melody's on channel 1, so it's always going to be 1. But I want to move the notes C and D out of the way so I can put G and F in their place. So I'm going to change note C to note C sharp, which I know isn't used. And then I'm going to move note D to note D sharp. And then now I'm free so that I can move note G to note C and note F to note D. But now that that's done, I can move these ones which were temporarily moved to the sharped notes. So I can move C sharp to G and D sharp to F. And hopefully I don't have any big problems. I'm going to try to compile this and see how it goes.
You might have an extra C in piccolo.
Oh, okay. Did I do 3 Cs?
In the bottom there's 3. I'm not sure how many are on top.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Thank you.
Nice.
So I'm going to try to compile this. Size, okay, size T, I think I'm at, okay. 26. Oh, okay. I meant to do size T. And then get file size, not get file size, it's cleared in this scope. Oh, because of the previous error. I think that was, okay, so it compiles. Now, hopefully I don't, hopefully it'll work. So I'm going to try to run it. And then first argument is USB MIDI connect, algorithm 1, variation 1. Second argument, I'm just going to call it trump and trumpet and horn dot mid. Okay, so there, and I have my, oh, it didn't save it. Oh, there it is, trumpets and horn dot mid. So created the file. Now I'm going to get my trumpets and horn dot mid and come over to music directory and move it over here. And I think it's easier to just close out MIDI clef and reopen it so that it will find the file. Okay. And it doesn't know about it, so I have to click here and go through another ad.
They're gonna get a lot of free advertising. I don't think that video shows up on a safe browser. So if you block Origin.
Wait, where did it go? Play files, music, trumpets and horn, top mid. Not seeing it. Oh gosh, where did it go? Let me just try moving it to the download folder.
If you switch back to the show.
Okay, there it is. Trumpets and horns with the melody inverted. Oh, you could put some reverb on it. Sounds like more outdoorsy. Anyways. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.
All right. That was interesting. You are a beast to be able to write C code and have it compile with just one error on the first try. So props to you. Any questions for David on his program? Yeah.
All right, so the C code just turned your hex values into the MIDI. So what does the MIDI look like after you use the compiler?
Do you want to see a hex dump?
Yeah, I'm curious because to take what you did and then turn it into that is like, what does that look like?
Let's see.
Do you want to bump up the screen a little bit more?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I see. Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Okay, neat.
Well, if you can do a diff of the two files, because that may be more illustrative of what he's looking at.
Well, because it's a binary file, it'll just say that the two files are different.
Yeah. Or hex dump A, hex dump B, diff hex dump A and B.
Oh, yeah, that would be an interesting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We didn't really go this so briefly, but I don't really familiar with the MIDI protocol. So what is used for?
What is MIDI used for?
Yeah.
Well, generally it's used in like recording studios, like recording artists want to record something. I mean, like a lot of stuff you hear on the radio has MIDI, was recorded with MIDI instruments, but me personally, I'd like to see it more used because I believe that it's not necessary to have a whole studio in your house to be able to create good music. So there's a lot of portable devices. I have some of them in my house. and I'd like to see more of that usage. But one thing to keep in mind is, like the original protocol, they had what they call a 5-DIN pin connector, I think. It's a circular thing, and it has like a bunch of pins in it. And that was universal. All MIDI compatible instruments use that 5-DIN pin connector. But these days, everybody has a home computer, and they have a USB port on it. So there was a lot of pressure on the industry to create a USB MIDI standard. So the USB people put out a USB MIDI standard, and it gets a little confusing these days because people think, you know, it's symmetrical, just like with the old MIDI, you should be able to plug in this device to that device and it works. But the problem is with the USB protocol, there's always a host and some auxiliary device. So it's not symmetrical. Your program has to be either a host or an auxiliary device, and it gets sort of confusing. But like my app, I created as, I was assuming that the Android device is the host. So it'll connect to external musical instruments that are not hosts. Or either that, or you have to use a USB MIDI converter. So it gets a little bit messy, but it is doable for somebody to have a lot of, you know, just portable musical instruments, and then connect it using their tablet or phone and create music. And you don't need a big whole studio to do it.
And just to follow up on that, the common application would be connecting your iPad, tablet, or PC to a keyboard, and you can use it like, instead of Guitar Hero, Piano Hero, to see if you're playing the correct notes.
All right. Any other questions? One in the back.
It's been a little while, so I don't remember, but MIDI has like a range on like the numerical values on durations and velocity and stuff. Do the new devices, instruments and whatnot, take like open sound control, which I think has like better range or like more precision, or is stuff still just all using MIDI?
Well, the ones that I've seen, I mean, like I recently went to a music store and bought like a synthesizer, and I ordered some sound modules online. I mean, they all use MIDI that I know of. I don't, is the other one you said is open sound control? Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that, which says something. I mean, it's might not be all that common at this point, so I don't know. Sorry.
Do you know if anybody's working on a large language model that can generate MIDIs?
No, but the ones I've seen, actually this guy over here who was just talking showed me a tool online which is pretty cool for, like, you specify lyrics and then it'll just generate some music, but that wasn't MIDI, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, I've seen some other, oh, actually, I think there is one called Magenta Tools, like Google's Magenta Tools, I think, might be able to interface you, with a large language model to MIDI.
Yeah, I was thinking because that'd be really cool because with these files you can go in and like this make manual changes. You can generate all kinds of ideas and then play with it in all kinds of ways you couldn't easily do with sound files.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of doors.
All right. I know you guys heard of Sono, that Suno, right? Yeah. Oh, is that OpenAI Jukebox? Okay. Oh, it's another one. I wonder if this is what they're doing behind the scenes. Any other questions for David? All right. Well, thanks, David. I appreciate the presentation. Give us a hand. All right. And then next up, we're going to have Coriano present. Please welcome Coriano. He's going to be presenting on using CSS in various interesting ways, some modern CSS tools. So yeah, welcome to the stage.
Oops. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Awesome. Let's see here, first of all. Okay. So my talk today is something that's been fascinating me for a while, and I've been so happy to be able to dive back into it, but it's really starting to understand CSS under the hood and kind of the whole process. So my talk, because I was just so blown away when I learned about some new powerful things CSS has built in and how you can take advantage of those. So my talk today is really about how you can leverage CSS for user interactions and not totally have to depend on JavaScript. So, hey, JavaScript, stop hogging all the user interactions. CSS can handle them too as well. And once again, it's just a really talk of opening like our front-end developers as far as knowing there's some other options you can go with utilizing, with handling user actions. So my name is Coriano Harris, and I am a design technologist. So let's see here. So quickly just kind of go through what we're going to talk about, the rule of least power, how the browser renders CSS, the benefits of using CSS to handle user interactions, example component, and then I got a really cool bonus feature that I've also been nerding off on too as well, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A. So the first thing here, I'm curious, do you guys all know about this core principle in software development? Okay, awesome. So this was something that was mentioned by Tim as well, and it struck a chord with me because that's kind of how I look at everything, is going, what is the simplest way for me to solve a problem or a task? What's the easiest tool to get me to get the results or complete something that I want to? And so that was really what this concept is. So the concept is, the principle suggests that when designing systems or choosing technology, use the least powerful language or tool capable of accomplishing a task. And when you kind of look at that from the web's perspective or the browser, you come up with this where it says for web, this means using HTML over CSS, CSS over JavaScript. So my talk is really focusing on that concept, but on the second part, CSS over JavaScript, if you can. So first thing, just quickly just going, so this is where a lot of, as we go through it, we'll kind of start seeing some of the power of CSS because of how the browser renders CSS. So the process, it parses the CSS. Basically what that means, it starts kind of reading the CSS rules and starts figuring out how elements should be styled. And then from there, it kind of starts creating this tree, which is called the CSS object model, similar to the DOM, where each node has now started getting the CSS rules applied to it. And then after that's created, then they combine, so the DOM and the CSS object model are combined to determine the final styles, and then it starts going through the render process and creating the render tree, and then we start looking at JavaScript, we start looking at the layout, the print, then JavaScript, and if for some reason JavaScript does change the DOM or the CSS, then it goes through that process again. Kind of that explaining this right here where it recalculates the styles. And so now, this is the other thing that's really interesting, the benefits of using this over, because of how the browser renders CSS. So one of the big things is immediate interaction, because of the fact that the browser renders CSS before the JavaScript, means that if you have your user actions, CSS is handling your user action, that means it's available to the user quicker. It doesn't have to wait for the JavaScript to load or still process. So that's one of the huge benefits of using CSS to handle some of your user actions. And the second one here is just kind of reduce the dependency on the JavaScript file, which is really nice too. So now you can start really optimizing and thinking about what can I move to CSS to handle. And I kind of look at this way, go, okay, this user interaction is not that complex, it's simple, I can throw it to CSS, let JavaScript handle the more complex or, the more complex user actions. And so it's really nice to be able to adjust that. And then once again, you can have a smaller JavaScript file, and then you can have CSS in a browser kind of handle the other use cases, the user actions. So now I'm going to go through some components here where I see CSS beneficial to use over JavaScript. So one is a toggle button. So in JavaScript, we can use that. We can data stored in a variable. We can do a local storage so that it persists over different tabs. But with CSS, you can use CSS to get this same experience. And what's nice about this is that you don't have to store anything in local storage. And here's an example of being able to do that. So here's an example of a light and dark theme. This is not being stored anywhere. It's just using CSS to be able to build this experience. So as we start looking through the CSS here, a lot of the magic is happening here. So this rule right here is hugely important because this allows me to change that to default check input here, which typically is just a box. This allows me to remove that default style and customize it to give it a similar experience of what we're custom looking at when we look at kind of a toggle button. And so here, so that allows us to do that. Then I'm doing it before to kind of handle the button and I guess you would say the wrapper around that. And then this one is another thing that's really cool too. So what's also packed within the browser or the web API is these concepts of live DOM attributes. And so certain elements by default when they're created get these live DOMs available globally. What that means is that CSS and JavaScript can get access to it. So this whole thing where what it's doing here is checking whether the input, the checkbox has been checked, true or false. And like I said, there's no JavaScript. This is just CSS communicating with the browser to get that information. And then here it's just more for accessibility. I always like to include this one. So this is a way where you can give mouse users a chance to not have to see the outline, but you still allow keyboard users to have that. So basically how this works is that this is transparent. So if you use a mouse, you won't see that. But if you're a keyboard, you're now getting that experience of seeing the dash border as a way for you to know exactly what element is. So that's just something I do in practice. And then down here, we're utilizing one of the new features, which is the pseudo class has, which allows you to do some conditionals off of the parent with the child. So right here, we're saying, hey, if the parent, grab the parent, if the child here has this check true, I want you to apply some styles to this particular container. And so that's where the styles are getting applied, where we're changing the different colors. So really cool way of using CSS. Not a lot of code, but giving a similar experience. And then let's grab here so I can click here. So now we're going into kind of this auto suggestion field. So this is another way to kind of make an auto suggestion with HTML, CSS. So here we've got the input field. Once again, I'm doing that focus here. And then just forehand, do people know about the data list element in HTML? Okay, perfect. So basically what this is doing is I've got a list here with this list attribute, and it's going to be passing in these options to this based off of that ID. And so if I go here, the user's now automatically, and I'm just using CSS in the browser, they're automatically seeing some things that they can suggest. And then as they filter through, they start getting that. So if they have EE, you're going to start getting this. It also gives them an option to type something else themselves. Like I said, this is all through CSS. I think this is really, really cool to use and not have to rely on JavaScript for this. And let's click off that so I can move forward. So now we're doing an accordion. So here's another example of using accordion. The big thing here is this code right here. This is using the live attribute DOM that I mentioned earlier. Details has an open attribute that's available globally in the web API. And so CSS is just checking to see what value. If that's true, I want you to do something. So now you can do accordion. Whoops, sorry. Do that. And so now you can have this accordion experience where you can go there, click off there, and you can remove that. And once again, it's all just using CSS. And then you can also use it with the form. I've tested out using it with form validations, but I decided to kind of do something a little more simpler for this talk. But let me refresh that. Perfect. And so here we got a form, you've got radio buttons you can choose. And then so for other, which we're used to, I'm used to seeing that as, okay, some input field's going to open up so that I can type something else in. And so now you have that option here. And this is, once again, all CSS. So, and they're using, like I said, that new feature, which is the hash, which is based off of doing conditionals off of the parent element to the child. Okay, and then, so now this one, this feature, I'm actually excited to talk about this the most because this one just really blew my mind because I really think this is going to be a game changer as we move forward. Just kind of hands, like when it comes to CSS and wanting to scope like the styles of the parent with the child, what do you guys typically use to kind of solve that? As far as, do you use Sass? Do you use any other like CSS preprocessors, CSS and JavaScript? Sass. You use Sass, okay. And so a new feature that the CSS working group has implemented, it hasn't been accepted by all browsers yet, but I really do think this is going to be a game changer. So they're coming out with a scope directive that is going to allow you to be able to, just with CSS, scope and apply styles from the parent to the child. So in this case here, we've got the scope here. We're starting from the div that has that card class, which is right there, and then we are scoping through the children until we get to the div that has the class slot. And if you look over here, all of that styling is being applied. Then I kind of have an example of some of the styling outside of that scope so you can see the difference here. So all of the ones that are scoped in here are getting that same experience of the line height, the color change, the padding, the background, and that's all being scoped by this tool. So this thing right here is going to be really huge because now you do not have to rely on using third-party styling applications or CSS or Sass or any of that to get this similar experience. I can't wait till it's fully supported, but I really think this is going to change because then you don't have to compile stuff. You don't have to go to Webpack and do all this kind of stuff. You literally be able to use CSS just to kind of build that in. And then last but not least, questions. That's my talk for today. Yeah.
I had.
And I'm sorry, but I forgot to mention this, that if you do have questions, honestly, I just made that stuff up. So good luck. Hopefully I can answer your questions.
Yes. Is this working? Okay, perfect. Question over here. Back.
What browser support do you generally support?
I mean, eventually, hopefully it'll be, I haven't, the last time I looked on, I guess, can I use it? It was still in works with Firefox, kind of on an experimental. Chrome, I believe, was the same thing. Safari, didn't really mention anything about Safari with this new feature. So right now, I think it's just an experimental stage with Firefox and Chrome at the moment. But eventually it'll be, because there's also another really good directive, which is called Layers too. It's another feature.
Cool. Question here.
Is there a way to compile support for this into existing projects on old browsers? Seems like a stretch, but I was curious if you ran into anything.
Honestly, I haven't. I mean, it was interesting. I was kind of worried if I was able to use this in Chrome, but I was able to use it in Chrome. So this is I'm using Vue, which I think is like a default for slide dev or for their slides, but it's in Vue. I was able to get this experience with Chrome, and so right now it's still. But that's I think CanIUse is still saying it's not like it's experimental, but or beta kind of that, but I'm assuming they might have some option to kind of turn that on like they did with the grid, where they had, like Firefox had something where you can turn that on to get that experience, but it wasn't yet.
Like the experimental flags feature?
Yeah, so, but that's just, I think that's going to be so huge to be able to just rely on CSS for it.
For the data, I don't know what the property was, but when you had the search box and then had the search recommendations, those search recommendations, do you know if it's possible to style those?
You can, yeah. I didn't do that, but you can, yeah.
So thank you for the talk. I like the talk. I have a question about accordion. So I don't know. I know it was not really possible, but right now maybe you know the way how we do this with HTML, CSS without JavaScript. Is it possible to add transition for accordion?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, you should be able to, I haven't tested out because I know that they have implemented that into the display, transitions. It's just been added to something. Is it to the Flex?
Okay, at least like I remember 1 year ago.
Yeah,
was hard
I know
to
they
do,
added
so
something. I think it's to the Flex property,
Okay.
but there is a way to add transitions. So
Perfect.
you can do like a,
you
yeah.
can now do it? Yeah, just, okay.
And then you can also have it based off using that has pseudo class, where you can have it check for something and then apply like a transition, 0.25 seconds linear.
Oh, okay,
and
perfect.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, just 1 year ago was like kind of hard to work around with that. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So you lost me with the scope slide. I didn't understand what was going on there.
Let's go back, yeah. Let's go back to that.
So usually rules like propagate down, right? So like we could just say like for all slots in all cards, these rules, right? You could do like .card space .slot and it would apply the rules. How is scope doing something different there?
So this is what I like about this is one here. I like this part of being very simple, of know exactly what is being scoped, and then knowing that it's going to start here, it's going to finish here, and then whatever children I have inside is available. But what I like about this too is it now allows me to have that experience of what I have with SAS, which is what
I see. So it applies to all of the things between the two things.
Oh,
Is
yes,
that-
yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so you'll have, so it starts here. This is where it's going to start this, scope directive. Then it's going to, because these are all children, these get all applied. And then because this is a child of this one, I guess the text color automatically gets passed down to the child. Do that. So yeah, so from here, so from here it's all being scoped with certain rules here, and then just to kind of test it out, I pull some rules outside in their kind of their own rules to kind of show you that how you can scope and you can also pull things. So what's really cool is that if there's certain things that I want all of these to have in common, I can just scope them and then just update the individual ones that I need to.
Thanks. I would love to hear an example later from you about how you want to use this.
Oh, I'm looking forward to playing more around with that too, but I just think it's really, really a nice, and then just the, like I said, the amount of code to kind of give that experience here too is kind of, to me, is really nice.
Any other questions? All right. I had one question, actually. It was about the accordion. I didn't quite see how when you tapped or clicked on the beach scene, emoji. How does that actually trigger the change of open or not open on the DOM live attribute?
Right here.
Correct, yeah.
So that is because that's a live DOM. Oh, sorry, it's a live DOM attribute. So this is globally available to JavaScript and CSS. Soon as this I guess element is added to the HTML tree, this becomes available. And so as long as that element is still on the HTML tree or the DOM API, this is still available. So if we were to use JavaScript or something and remove it, then CSS would not be able to kind of apply that.
I guess what I mean is, where's like the click event that actually adds that element or adds
Oh,
that attribute?
okay. So you're clicking. So you have here. So we have because this is a live element. This what's happening here is when I click on this, when I click on that, it's actually CSS is now communicating back with the DOM.
So put it away.
Yeah. Correct.
Oh, I see.
Correct.
I see,
Yeah.
I see. It's built into the details element.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Correct,
I
yeah.
missed that. All right, that makes sense. Thank
But
you.
yeah, and then that allows for having that that attribute assigned to it.
All right. Well, give Coriano a hand. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, and now everyone welcome Fabian to the stage. He'll be talking about Git bisect. Let's get this.
Thanks, man.
All right, so is there a speaker presentation?
No, you can just full
okay. I will make this.
Walking properly.
There we go. Perfect. And you can feel free to use this if you want as well.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. So I will speak about Git bisect, which is basically a subcommand for Git, which will help you to quickly find the cause of a regression in your code. So I'm working at Ring Central, and my name is Fabian. If you want to speak about it, come see me at the end. So anyone doesn't know at all what Git is? If you don't know at all what it is, like raise your hand. Cool, we just save 1 minute. So before going into Git, we're gonna speak about what a bisection is, because basically it's like a mathematical term which sounds complicated, but it's just like taking something, some element, and cutting it to have two elements of the same size. So like before, when we had the pizza, if you want to be fancy, when you cut a pizza in half, you can say that you performed a bisection in the pizza. So let's go back to Git. So here it's like several commits that I have. And on the last commit, I noticed that one of my feature is not working. There's the bug. I know that a few commits ago it was working. This is the green one. And in the middle, I have 7 like gray commits. I don't know when it stopped working. So how can I use the bisection to help me find the commit that introduced the regression faster than checking every one of them? So first, I go to the middle commit, and I will test my code on this commit. In my example, it was still working. So basically, I can assume that all the commits before, they were working, and I don't have to test them. So next, I repeat the process. I go to the middle commit. I test it for the second time. In this one, it was not working, so I don't have to test the commits after this one. I go to the last one. I test the third time. It was working, so I found the first commit that introduced the regression. So like in my example, instead of trying 7 times, I had to try 3 times. It's cool, but it's not enormous. Like I divided by 2 the number of tries. But without going into the details, the way it works is that with n being the number of commits in the middle that I have to test, I can do log2 of n to see the number of commits that I will really have to test. So with 7, we saw it was 3 tries. With 100, it's 7, and with 1,000, it's 10. So we see that the more commits I have to test, and the more it becomes efficient because it doesn't grow faster. So that's where Git bisect shines. When you have plenty of commits in the middle, you won't have to perform a lot of tests to see where your regression is. So I described the process manually. We could basically go to the middle commit, test, and then go after or go before, but it wouldn't be very convenient, and that's why there's a subcommand like baked into Git. You don't have to install anything, called git bisect, and basically it does that automatically. So let's see how it works. First, I will start with git bisect start with two references. The first one is the commit where I know that it's not working. So for example, I use head to say the current commit, but I could use a commit reference. And the second one, it's the commit where I know that it was working at the time. To know which commit to use, there's no silver bullet. If you know that it worked like 3 weeks ago, you go to a commit 3 weeks ago. What I do when I don't really know is that I go to the commit who introduced the feature, but you can basically go to a commit a few weeks or months ago and try to see if it works or not. When you started that, it will put you automatically in the middle commit. So you test your code, and after that, you have 3 choices. If it works on this commit, you set you enter git bisect good. If it doesn't work, git bisect bad. And if you can test, for example, because you had a syntax error and so you cannot run your code, you can git bisect skip. So at the end, you will find the cause of the regression, and when you're done, you git bisect reset to come back to the origin commit. So let's see an example. So on the right, okay, I just have a node console, and so basically I delete the cache to be able to reload my JavaScript file without having to close and open the node console again all the time. And then on my module, I call the add function with 1 and 2, so I should have 3, but I see that I have 4. So I will use no, not that. I will go back to, it's kind of crazy to have a video to not make a live demo and that it doesn't work. No, okay, it's the next commit. Okay. Okay, so here I go back to my history to find a commit where it was working. So when I implemented the add function, so I can start git bisect with the head and the reference of this commit. So I will go back to the node console, start. It was working at the time, so I git bisect good. It moves me to another commit. I will be able to try again. It's not working, so I use git bisect bad. And the last one, it worked at the time, so I do git bisect good. And so I can see which commit introduced the error, and it's because of this damned inflation. And I can even git show with the ID to see what was the code change exactly. So like all this, it works properly already, but I can do something even better. We see that I try manually my code several times. So if you don't like to do that because you're lazy and being lazy is good, you can use git bisect run. So with that, you use a script, and the exit code of this script will tell Git if it's working or not. So you use the code 0 if it's good, 1 to 127 except 125 if it's bad, and 127 if you want to skip. So let's see the example. So let's just first check the script. So basically, I include my module. I will call the add function. If it's a proper result, I exit with 0. Otherwise, I exit with 1. And after that, I do just like before. I start the bisection. And instead of testing manually, I will use git bisect run with my script. And automatically, it will test on each commit. And I end up with the same commit, but it's faster. Mm-hmm. So that's it for me. A quick thank for Patrick who helped me set up the demo. And yeah, if you have any question, feel free to ask.
Very interesting. Okay. Any questions? I'm sure we might have.
Oh yeah, just one quick thing.
Yeah.
I showed it for a bug, but like it doesn't have to be code. So for example, if you're doing a web application, you can see what CSS change introduced a break in your like design, because you can run the application and see with the browser. And also you can use it to see when the feature was introduced. For that, you can use git bisect new and git bisect old. It's the same thing under the hood actually, but yeah, it doesn't have to be only bugs. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Any questions? Oh, great. There's one in the back. Yeah.
How does git bisect work if you have a merge commit and there's not a single history in your commit chain?
Well, when you go into, like basically it just uses the commit to go to the middle one. If you don't squash, that's why I love to squash, and you have a commit that don't really make sense, and like you cannot test on this commit, you use skip, and it will move you to the next one, just like not the middle one, but one after or before, I don't really know, and you test when you can.
Any other questions? Yeah, on that similar, that was actually going to be my question, is if a commit had multiple parents. I know it's not common, but you can have more than 2 parents if you want, but usually merge commits have 2 parents. How does it know to go one direction or another if you're in a
well, basically, when you do your git log, you have do git log, you have commit in a specific order.
Mm-hmm.
So like basically, it's depending on this that it will split in half before, after, but you always have a linear history of commits. Like even if you have, I don't know how it's represented, but basically you cannot have 2 parents that go to 2 branches or whatnot. It's always like linear.
I see. Yeah.
So
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, give Fabian a hand. Thank you so much. Here's this. All right. Am I on?
Yeah, can you?
Okay. Cool. Let me just switch back really quick here. All right. Let's just give one more quick round of applause to all of our speakers. Thank you so much. Very interesting talks. Git bisect, I wish I knew about that a few months ago. I had to do that work manually, unfortunately. Final part of our format here, we're just going to do a quick, for anyone who's interested, an open mic session where anyone who wants to announce anything, feel free to come up on stage and share your announcement with our community. If it's a cool project that you want to talk about and share with the community, or if it's an idea that you're working on, this is just a chance for you guys to kind of share. It could even be tools that you find useful and you wanted to talk about. Some events or activities that you want to share with the community outside of DEVx, and any other developer-related things. So if anyone is interested, quick show of hands who would like to talk or announce something. Tristan, we'll start off. Cool.
Hey everyone, thanks for. Can you guys hear me okay?
There we go. Is that on?
Oh, that's better. Sweet.
There we go.
I'm Tristan. I'm one of the organizers for this event. We've been trying to branch out and do kind of some smaller events that are going to be more localized. So I'm someone who's more of a solo founder, someone who I do a lot of client-facing work, and I'm trying to do my own startups. And back in the day, I used to go to a small meetup called Solo Founders. It was just a group of guys meet up at a coffee shop, super casual. If you're working on something and you want to show it to people or get feedback or just network with other people that are doing similar things. So it's something that I wanted to do. We're probably going to host it in Del Mar. So I'll leave an announcement in the Discord. There's not an official date, maybe next Monday, so not tomorrow, but next week. So yeah, if you're interested, if you're working on something, or you just want to network with people that are building cool stuff, it's going to be a small little area to just do that. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Coriana.
Yeah, I've got one. I love the Git everyone's perspective on. I think, thanks, appreciate that. So one thing I've been thinking about is starting kind of a 30-minute show that's based on transparency and empathy and kind of understanding what the others do on your team. So I wanted to call it like, what do you do? And it's basically a talk where you get two people that work in have different roles or different areas of tech come together for 30 minutes and just have this conversation. One is like, hey, oh, you're a strategist. What, or tech strategist, what does that mean? Oh, you're data science, what does that mean? And so as I was working as a design technologist and some of my other roles where I had to interact with various teams, I was realizing that there was so much disconnect and that these teams didn't actually know what the other team was doing, or more importantly, didn't even know what the other person was doing. And we had one incident where we needed to update content, and we're in this meeting or stand up, and we're all trying to figure out ways to do it. And I was like, hey, guys, we actually have a UX content writer that supports our team. And everybody's like, what, we do? I don't even know who that is. And I'm like, yeah, let me go reach out to her. And I happened when I started with them, because that's something that I've been doing proactively for the last several years. Is like when I started a company, that first 2 weeks, I try to find out who all has any investment in the product. I don't care if I work with you directly or not. And so in that case, that was a UX content, spoke with her for half an hour, within that first week. 6 months later, when we had this issue, I was able to reach out to her, and she's like, yeah, I can hop on a call. So she hopped on there, we talked about it, and we were able to kind of push that work to her, and she was able to get it back to us. So that's just another example of kind of building that. But because of just, to me, the lack of that, I thought it'd be a really interesting. So I was just kind of curious if that's something that you guys would see be beneficial as far as being able to go there. And like I said, you just randomly pick two people that work in different fields, whether I get submissions of people like, hey, I would love to talk to someone in this role, and then try to pair them up and start having those conversations. Okay, awesome, yeah. Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. So yeah, this is the first time we're doing any of this open mic format. So if you guys have no announcements, it's completely fine. But last call, anyone want to share something or now? Yeah, come on up stage.
Hi, thanks for your attention. I've been trying to look for groups that are starting to get into or are in AI, the AI space. I mainly started getting into the idea because I'm very lazy and I want things to be done for me, and why not tell something to do it for me in the future? So, for instance, I'm trying to get into creating StarCraft mods because I'm oddly obsessed for some reason with it. And I want to train an AI to figure that out for me for the most part. So are there anybody familiar with any AI groups in San Diego? Nope. Yeah, I suppose. You? Wait. All right. SDX and Data Science Alliance. Cool.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it, but there's one that's meeting, I think, Saturday or something over at the ALX building. I tried to go to it a couple months ago, but I saw Saturday and it was Sunday or Sunday and Saturday. So I was there the wrong day.
Yeah, there's also one more, I think maybe yours too, but it's essentially like a book reading one where they basically talk about like ML or data science topics and just based within like a group reading book, and basically either do a project on a data set. Last I checked it a while back, it was something about PCA analysis
Well,
I just want to mention, so the Google Monthly has just teamed up with AI Camp something. So I would check with them. I'm not sure you're familiar, but they're through Meetup. They've got their events are through Meetup, but they are now partnering with some AI school that's here in San Diego, and so that could be another option to connect with them. But I just can't remember the name of what that is, but they have partnered up with San Diego Google Meetup.
sounds like there's a lot of links to share on the Discord, perhaps. But yeah, SDX is a meetup group I've been meaning to also attend to. Chad and Chase run that. I know them very well. They're good guys, so just haven't been able to connect with them. So. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
I think it's for like startups and investors, but.
Yeah, I'll have to. I tried texting him. It doesn't always align with my schedule, but yeah, good group. Yeah, feel free to share all those links in person after this, and that's what this is all about. So, any other announcements before we move on, or? Okay, cool. I think we're. AJ, come on up.
One of the brothers said we're gonna, or asked me about Svelte stuff, so 5-minute demo.
Okay.
In like 5 minutes.
All right. Anyone want to see a demo? Come talk to AJ. All right. I do have one short announcement directly from the community. I thought it was worthwhile. We now have an official DEVx website. It's at devx.network. The GitHub link is there as well. You can also find that link on the website, of course. I just want to say a special thanks to all the contributors who contributed to make this happen. AJ, and Zane as well, our own, as well as Tim. I don't know if he's in the audience right now. I don't think so. One of our regulars, and Audie as well. Audie, are you here? No, I don't think. No. These guys are awesome for contributing the work towards that site, and so check that out. That's going to be a place in which you can find all of our information. The Discord link is there, the Luma, the Meetup, a little bit about us. Of course, all the other exterior links, our YouTube channel. And also, because it is open source on GitHub, feel free to check that out and go wild on adding issues if you want. If you find something on there that's misspelt, create an issue. If you want to put out a PR and fix it, awesome. This is an open source community project. If you have a cool idea you want to add on a page there, create an issue. Maybe a page that puts up cool projects from the community, and we have a project page. That would be pretty cool. Whatever you can think of. So this is kind of just a central hub. We want to really see this, facilitate this as being the central hub for our community, as well as a place in which you can kind of get your roots, your bearings on contributing to open source. So with that said, I think that is all. And finally, feel free to visit that website to join the community. If you're not already on the Discord, that's a place where you can submit your talk. That is another quick point. We also have our form to submit your talk on the website now, so no more kind of back and forth trying to reach out. Makes it very easy. And also to follow our event calendars. So that is it for us. Thank you all for coming, and feel free to hang out and talk about some of those things amongst yourself. And we'll be here till 4. So thanks, man. Cool.